This information you are about to hear and perhaps view, these are not necessarily the thoughts or the ideas of Gary C.Clement or the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the parties this story is about or was interviewed for. Parts of this content may not be owned by or the property of the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, G2 Network Media, or any other company we are affiliated with, and this information is strictly the opinion of those being interviewed. This content is for information purposes only, and although we may make reference to various news stories, we share our own independent beliefs about the content and provide our own opinions. Please enjoy the information. Yes, this is Gary Clement, and this is the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. And today we are very pleased to have our guest. Her name is Jena Jake. How are you today?
I'm great, Gary. Thanks for having me to the show.
Great. Okay. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are and your services, please.
I am a divorce, recovery, during, and prevention coach. And I am also the author of a children's book called Purpose and the host of the Soul Streaker podcast.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess, divorce, in today's society, divorce is a big thing for a lot of couples. It seems as if, people get married, take their vows, and they don't stay together now for life like they once did years ago. Can you talk a little bit about that for me, please?
Well, I would think that people don't get married to get divorced, that you go into it with the best intentions. However, I guess in today's society, there's that little voice that says, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll just get divorced. But they don't realize how traumatic divorce is, how life-changing it is. And it's not something that I would enter into lightly. So if anybody is thinking about marriage and they have any hesitation, I would strongly suggest that they wait and not get married and work on it. But I can't say. I would think in a matter of the most of the cases, it's a surprise that people are getting divorced. I never thought I would get divorced, and it just worked out that way.
I see. So would you say that, after you're divorced, you're happier, or you wish you all could have stayed together, or how do you feel about that?
That's really complicated. I would say yes to everything. You're happier about the things that you don't have to put up with anymore. You're happier that the things that you hated about the other person you don't have to deal with. But there's always a part of you that misses the familiar and longs back to have the relationship, because being single has its ups and downs and its challenges, and so is being married. So you're kind of trading one circumstance for another. I think overall, in my particular case, this has been a better situation, even though it's been excruciatingly hard, because now I have the space to grow and reflect and unbecome who I was so I can become the person that I'm meant to be, which is not an easy task. And that's really what you're faced with when you get a divorce. You're either going to face yourself and change and look at whatever caused the divorce that was really on your side of the street, or you're going to find somebody else in the same guy or girl or whoever in a different pair of clothing and make the same mistakes again, or you're going to let it eat you up whole. One of the three is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Because they say like divorce is the ball and chain. I mean, being married is the ball and chain, but the divorce and not growing from the divorce and living an emotional Groundhog Day, that's the ball and chain.
I see. Right. Okay. Now, there are a couple of, I guess, different aspects here, too, because you're dealing with, first of all, if you have children, you have to co-parent. Was that one of your situations there?
Yes, I have two children, and one of them is special needs. So I'm going to be co-parenting forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so on some level, you have to get along with that person. There has to be forgiveness and kindness in your heart, and love your children more than you don't like your ex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So would you say then that being married, I guess I should have put this, would you say then that after the divorce that you and your husband are closer now than you were before, or because?
No, no, we're
Okay.
not. We're not. But there's enough, I would say, good feeling left over for our children, 100%, that we both want to do right by them.
Right. I see.
I
I
would say
got
that's where that stems from. And I don't know if it's necessarily him towards me. I don't know what he feels towards me, and I've learned to stop working that shift, because you can't make somebody happy. I can't control what his thoughts are about me.
you.
So
Right.
I don't worry about that. I just worry about how I feel about him,
I see.
because that's what I feel inside, because I'm the only one in here.
I see. I got you. And then when it comes to the children, how do they feel about you and him not being together?
Well, I don't know how it affects my older daughter, because she's special needs, but my
Hmm.
younger daughter, I know, has been devastated by this.
Hmm.
And the divorce hurts the children as much, if not more, as it hurts the parents.
Hmm.
So it's a difficult thing to do when you're hurting so badly, but you really need to watch the feelings of your children and not say bad things about your ex, and monitor their well-being, because they're really going through as much of a hard time as you are. And it's really hard to do, because you're in so much pain that it's hard to pay attention to somebody else's.
Hmm. Right. I understand. And when COVID-19 hit, did you get many calls? Did you get other people and stuff that were actually facing divorce and stuff themselves and wanted advice and stuff from you? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think COVID has produced a lot of divorces and a lot of babies, and I think a lot of people were in tolerationships and just tolerating each other, because they weren't around each other all the time, and when they were forced to be together, in a lot of cases that triggered a divorce.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And in these conversations, are people rather open, rather, just like, can explain fully how they feel about the other person, like a counseling session in a sense? Can they open up? Like,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, they are, but I always feel that it's easy to come to a therapy session or a coaching session or a divorce session and blame the other person. And if the other person would just change, if that some other person would just be happy, just be different to make me happy, but that's not going to happen, and that's not the way it works. So I advocate for people to work on themselves and be happy within themselves. And when they're different, the whole relationship is going to change,
I see.
because you're sitting around. It's really difficult to change. So why would they expect somebody else to change?
Hmm.
They can't control that. They need to focus on what they can control.
Right, right. I see. So, and also, when you're divorcing, someone, does that make you have a drastic change in regards to the friends and the people that you hang around?
Interesting question. Yes and no. I think it makes you take a look at your whole life, and you start to hopefully raise your standards about who you're hanging around with, how you're spending your time, because you probably overgave in that relationship, which is part of the reason, especially as women and as empathic women, 100%. We over delivered ourselves, and it wasn't appreciated, or we're walked on, and now we're left to fend for ourselves in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So it does make us reevaluate our time, what we value, who we were, who we want to be, how we got burned. What was our contribution to the situation, and what was our role in this situation? And a lot of times we discover that we overgave. So I'll give you the woman's point of view on that, because
Hmm.
I am a woman. It's harder to express a man's point of view, because I'm not one.
Right. No, I understand. I got you. Okay. Okay. So I guess, like I said, from your perspective, you feel as if divorce, I guess you could say, affects the woman a lot worse than it does a man.
I think men are better at compartmentalizing
Hmm.
and not as emotional.
Hmm.
And women are very emotional, and there's a emotional side to divorce that both men and women experience, but there's a business side. And I
Mm-hmm.
think men do better at the business side and not as well as the emotional side. And it's the opposite for women. They do better at the emotional side, the processing, and not as well as the business side.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And then from a standpoint of a child, of the children, like you said, I guess that's a whole different dynamic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's the business of managing the children, but then there's this emotional piece of what are they going through and how is this, they've lost everything that's familiar to them too, and how are they going to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
And what's life going to be like for them? So removing as many of those question marks as a person can, as a parent can, is very helpful to children, giving them routine, giving them consistency. Even if you're doing back and forth between two houses, it's better to do one whole week in one house and one whole week in another house than 2 nights here, 3 nights there, and they're constantly running back and forth between houses. Or having one house and then the parents flip-flopping. A lot of parents do that at first. They leave the kids in the original house and they get an apartment that they share and they flip-flop that. There's
Mm-hmm.
many ways to do it, but to keep consistency for the children is what's best.
I see. Okay, cool. Okay. So when it comes to support behind, being divorced, do you have a support group that you attend or that you started or what's been the big
I
part?
did attend a support group, a couple of support groups. I went to quote unquote divorce school, learning the business of divorce, what to expect in a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But there was not a lot of emotional processing, which was where I work with my clients. I don't they have lawyers, they have accountants, there's realtors, there's all kinds of people that could help them through the divorce. But to sit and process and think about who they were in that divorce and who they want to become, that's where I work with my clients.
I see. I got you. Okay. And are you discovering
But I
that?
would
Go
recommend
ahead.
a divorce kind of school.
I see.
So
Interesting.
where to expect the divorce, how to have a decent, healthy, as much as you can, supportive divorce. Yes, there's definitely a spot for that.
I see. I got you. Okay. And I guess also, how long have you been in this business, I guess, to start with?
Well, I was coaching leaders before this, and then so over the last couple of years, I switched to doing this since I was going through my own divorce and saw the impact and the need for it because it's so traumatic and so earth shattering that nobody should go through a divorce by themselves.
Right. I hear you. I got you. Okay, cool. Your family, have they been supportive at all?
Yes, they have actually. They've been supportive of me and been there and checked in on me and made sure that I wasn't alone for holidays, things like that. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
I see. Okay.
It's important.
Right. I understand. I got you. Okay. So to move on, do you date at all or what's the next step for you?
Yeah, I I try. I get out there, but I'm not willing to settle, and I really want to find somebody that I really want to have a future with. And so I feel that it's important for me to work on myself this time and get to this point, which I'm pretty much there, that I have this happy life that I enjoy, and now I'm willing to make room for another person in it. So I'm confident that the universe will bless me with a lovely man that will fulfill that role. So I'm not trying to get anything from him, but I'm trying to give to him to share all the blessings that I have, to double the goodness of that blessing.
Right. Right. I got you. Okay. So,
Yeah, but it's hard, and it's hard to meet people of a certain age, and there's not a lot of people that I would find I would be compatible with on a dating app. So there's that challenge of when you're middle age, where do you go to date?
hmm
So I just do the things that I would want to do in the relationship, charity events, volunteering, whatever hobbies I have, and eventually I'm confident that the universe will put me in the path of whoever it is I'm supposed to meet.
I see. I got you. Okay. And I was going to say that this online dating stuff can be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. There's so much catfish out there. I've been catfished before on an online site, and that's why I don't put a lot of credence into it. It's fun. You have to approach it with just fun. You can't. I would not approach it on like looking for somebody. Some people do find. I know people of all ages that have found husbands, boyfriends on dating apps. Women friends that I have.
Hmm.
So it's not impossible, but I wouldn't. I would go into it looking for fun and with a fun attitude, not taking it too seriously, and see what happens.
I see. Okay. You also have a podcast that you do. Tell us about this podcast that you participate in.
Yeah, I have a podcast called Soul Streaker, and this season was the Tao called the Tao of Divorce, which is based on the Tao Te Ching with the Way. It's a book by Lao Tzu called and the Tao means the way. And I think there's just a way to do things, a way to get a divorce based on your peace of mind being the loudest voice and not willing to give up your peace and keep your heart open. The Buddhists call it bodhicitta, not letting your circumstances, your life circumstances, harden your heart, close your heart, keeping your heart open, having compassion for yourself, for your situation, for your ex even, and not clinging to the divorce, not holding on too tight and letting it just go through you. So
Hmm.
people tend to cling to things, bad things and good things that have happened to them, and not to cling to anything, to move through it.
Hmm. Okay.
So I have a bunch of episodes about all these kinds of things that I just mentioned. So if anybody's going through a divorce or just looking for inspiration, please check out Soul Streaker podcast.
Very good. Cool. Okay. And you mentioned a children's book. Tell us about your children's book.
Yeah, I have a children's book that's coming out called The Purpose, about a protagonist named Sammy who doesn't know what Sammy's purpose is, and sees that the bees are doing their thing and the dogs are doing their thing and the birds are doing their thing, and how happy and joyful they all are. And Sammy just wants to be happy like the animals that are around. And this voice comes out and tells Sammy, you can have that. They're fulfilling their purpose. They just know what to do naturally. And Sammy doesn't understand what the purpose is for Sammy. And then all of a sudden, Sammy gets it at the end that if Sammy just does what's inside the heart, what comes naturally, the purpose will be fulfilled. It's a beautiful book.
Very good. Cool. So, what are the age ranges for this book, please?
I like it to be as a spiritual book, so I think it's any range from 5 to 500. I would feel, but it's a board book and it kind of is presented as a children's book. But if anybody's inspired by it, I think any age goes. But I I think about 5 would be the earliest that children would begin to understand this.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And back to the issue of divorce, I meant to also ask you in regards to bitterness. Did you immediately just get bitter and mad when everything finally went down, or how did it happen to basically?
Um, you know, I, I was never bitter. I've been sad, heartbroken, very heartbroken, anxious, but never bitter. Um, I don't I don't want to hold on to bitterness because I have a special needs child, and if you hang on to that, wishing something was different and not accepting the way it is, it's going to be a pain monster that's just going to eat you up, and I don't want that. So I accept what it is. I accept everything as a teacher. My greatest teacher, this divorce has been one of my greatest teachers, as well as my ex, and really shine the light on what's the next evolution of me. So in a lot of sense, I'm grateful, actually.
Hmm.
I have my days where it's hard and scary and lonely, but to have an overwhelming feeling of gratitude is what's come. But it's taken a while to get there.
I see. Okay. Very good. Okay. And contact information for those who want to read more about you, learn about your
Yeah.
product.
Thank you. So you can find me on Soul Streaker Podcast, my website, Jena Jake, JenaJake.com, or on TikTok. I'm on TikTok as Single Girl Rising, and Instagram at Jena.Jake, Jena.Jake.
We really do appreciate our guests who participated in this episode, and we hope you learned something that will bless your day and your life. For all who are interested in learning more about the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, please visit www.amazon.com and order my book, The Gary Clement Radio Show, When Strong Afro-American Men and Women Stand Up. It covers everything about us and features a variety of Afro-American personalities who speak out about the importance of education and literacy in the Black community. Well, we thank you for tuning into our podcast. Please send us your email address so we can contact you when we have new releases and new episodes and new projects as well. You can reach us at gccpresents@yahoo.com. And also, if you're interested in submitting any materials or want to get in touch with us, please do so by simply sending an email to gccpresents@yahoo.com. That's G as in Gary, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie, presents@yahoo.com. So until next time, do take care. And this is a G2 Network Media production.